I do not like making these tapes because it's capitulation to slave labor. A great deal of money and traffic has been put into the lifelong ordeal for which I have been used by the celebrity superstate to re empower the Axis, um, which, as you know, we thought we had defeated in World War II. Well, hybrid media came on the air today with a pitch on YouTube of John Stockwell about the way the CIA manipulates media. It's important to realize I'm deaf and I don't know what kind of background sounds are being made by things like the fan. But it's important to realize that hybrid media has been operational and Obama is pretty cunning when it comes to justifying the attack he participated with Putin in on the United States, among other things. The leapfrog oligarchs have a um, unified hybrid war station that they're zapping the entire international scene with by agreement while appearing to be in disagreement. And this is to keep people confused about what they're doing. And at the hybrid station where I go drop-in center, somebody brought up a girl who was caught with two apparently legal in the United States liquid cannabis or something in Russia, and should she go to prison? You know, I see these pitches as for what they are. It's Clint Eastwood working with his crow hag Yoko Ono, to try to angle towards, with great cunning, the venture of synthesizing people's plastic reality, their vague sensibilities about things. And of course, there's a musclehead faction that was engaged in licky chops pornography all along the West Coast, who are allied to Black Power movements in Africa by virtue of Axis cunning. I've, for example, seen Black Power advocates from Africa making laughing stocks of leaders of the NAACP, getting them to death vow and blood oath to the brothers in the worldwide Black Power movement, which is a great achievement for the Axis to ally Black Power with them and to make a laughing stock out of the NAACP. And rather than be laughing stocks for their attempts to humanize um, the values of our society and to go with the Green New Deal, the attempts to get health care to people, attempts to de escalate the arms race and use the money for more reasonable civilian concerns to have safe schools. They choose instead to blood oath and death vow to the Axis military mystique of the Black Power movement. And it doesn't seem to be anything anybody among them cares to do anything about it concerning, especially when it comes to me. But I think it's important to understand the situation for what it is. For example, if I went over to people with my repertoire and said, you could have known, that gave you enough clues that John Lennon was pulling an international heist and faked his own death, because they did. Double Fantasy was loud and clear as a title, for example. He's using a double. People would look at me and say, you're crazy. Even if that did happen, there's no way I could have known it. And the truth is that a whole field of crimes and backstabs and Ripper Hatter assassinations and bystanders, the reprehensible cheerleading of the NAACP and Green Party when it came to the murder of a series of Kennedys. You know, the Texas school book angling for licky chops that came out of Pittsburgh's NAACP and Carnegie Mellon University, all supported, of course, by the white power establishment and the Morgans. Targeted me with the basis of the idea I could have saved John Lennon. Okay, to understand their lie, their absurdity, their obscenity, the way they smushed this construction of a persona on a grade school child who they had brutally tortured. And it's very important to them to deny that fact. Because, I mean, there were neurobiological bars against comprehending what had happened. But if you buy their claim that those are irrelevant, they're saying that I could have understood that a 12-year-old Jewish girl from Pittsburgh had the power and intention of killing the leader of the Beatles. And I deny that that's true. There's no way I could have known that. The 12-year-old Jewish girls in my neighborhood were just happy go lucky, a little bit conformist, and they seemed to be as fun loving as anybody. The idea that one of them could have been part of a neural network of Axis leadership avenging Adolf Hitler is too far out. I wouldn't have. I deny that I could have understood that. And if I tried to talk something like that with any adults, they would have just grabbed the paper, said, "Give me that," throw them away. The only thing that happened was I saved them, investigated other leads, and eventually realized that the letters were intelligence operation scripts. And by that time, the Licky Chops wanted them. So the whole thing was also done with the intention. It was made viable by the premeditated involvement of elements of the NAACP building an arc. So when you think about the fact that you turned down my evidence that London staged this, that he pulled a Houdini with Reagan, which is proven by the evidence. And I'd say, well, you could have known it. You're not just negligent, but you're guilty because you could have known it. You were given enough clues. You would look at me and say, buddy, it didn't even happen. And you tell me that a 12-year-old kid would know that a 12-year-old Jewish girl was capable of doing something with that result. You're wrong. So it's absurd to say that I could have saved John Lennon. It means I could have known that Gail Burstyn was involved with his Houdini, or her, or as you like to put it, that this 12-year-old Jewish girl in Pittsburgh knew, knew the day 6 years later that somebody from Hawaii was going to shoot him, which is what you claim happened. And it's wrong. It's untrue. So what you're doing is you're torturing, you're murdering Kennedys, you're standing for the murder of Kennedys, you're torturing people, you're promoting a Black Axis Confederacy, which is a big win for Adolf Hitler's faction. And you're saying it's because dot, 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 which is completely false. It's totally untrue. It has nothing to do with reality. It's a hallucination that's being mongered from the promoters of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. It's a narrative, they like now say, that they are trying to establish. And you're helping them establish a wrongful, stupid, completely false narrative that a battered, subordinated, mistreated, tortured, in fact, they denied that, neglected, deaf 12-year-old kid in Pittsburgh, overloaded with violent crime, could have understood that a 12-year-old girl knew that 6 years later somebody from Hawaii was going to go into New York City to play that he killed John Lennon. And you're wrong. There's no way that a 12-year-old Pittsburgh kid could have known that. Not under the circumstances, not under any circumstances, not from the letters, not from any circumstances whatsoever could I have known that. So when you say Jimmy Creary is being punished for could have saved John Lennon, you're espousing a lie. You're espousing something that's completely untrue. You're espousing something that I would have had never, ever, ever have had anything to do with on behalf of the people who killed JFK. And then you get Cersei killed and claim that it's avenging JFK because of the twists in your logic. They even had a book called A Twist of Lennon. That's what it is. It's all twisted up in the stupidities of the Licky Chops people in the stupid Seattle. And I don't see it as genius. It's far from genius. They say it's building momentum. That I believe.